a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies, till all my fears have gone. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am
my life, I've had periods of time that I had like fear. I can remember being like in second grade, and I had this fear that my mom was going to be dead when I got home. I mean, it was like reoccurring every day. I was scared to death when I got home she wasn't going to be there. So I remember that started early on, and then toward middle school and high school, I had so much fear about going to school. Nothing ever happened, but I would like get dread and I would start freaking out. And Mom would just pray with me. I was a Christian then, so she would pray with me, and she said, Leah, the biggest thing about fear is fear itself. Like, the thing that you're thinking is not even fearful, but the constant dread and scary thoughts about it is the scariest thing apart about it. And it never turned out bad. So, but in 2008, I was working at Hope Clinic, and I switched jobs to work at Albury's on the Parkway. And I was just like having panic attacks every day. And I think the switching of the jobs kind of helped that, reinforce that. But I went into counseling and just really started having struggles daily. Like I couldn't sleep at night, and couldn't sleep, and just had fear about everything. So I got to a point where just all day long it was just torment in my mind. And one of the biggest things about fear is the devil wants to isolate you.
Yeah.
He wants to tell you, don't share your story. Keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
Nobody understands. So my husband knew some of what was going on and stuff, but it was just constant. And I think it'd been like 2 weeks I hadn't hardly slept any, and I couldn't go to work. I couldn't even get out of the car sometimes at work and have to go back home. So one night Scott was working, and I was home with my 2 kids, and the devil said to me, and I know it was him, he said, you will never be a good mother, and you'll never be a good wife, which was the 2 main things that I wanted to be good at. So bear with me, because I haven't shared this story very much, but and they had put me on anti-anxiety medicine, and I remember in that moment I thought, I don't have anything if I don't have that. I don't have anything if I can't be a good mother and a good wife. So I went and I got my medicine, and I just like put out a handful, and I was like, just don't even think about it. I just took a handful of medicine, and I called Scott, and immediately my heart was like thumping. I knew I had not done the right thing, and I called Scott, and he come home, and this is, I know it's hard to hear sometimes, it's hard to say sometimes, but it gets better. So we was waiting on the ambulance to come, and you know, I took like 10 to 12 nerve pills, so I should have been like out, gone in another world. But I was real alert, and I was talking to Scott, and the ambulance driver come, and I had like PTSD from years ago, things that happened, and panic disorder and panic anxiety, and I started talking to the guy in the ambulance, which was covered in tattoos, and we was just like, I had a tattoo, I was talking to him about his tattoo, so, and we talked a little bit, and he's like, you know, you should be like passed out by now. Like, I don't know what's going on. So we're driving, and I remember the Lord saying so plain, every voice that had been attacking me was silenced, and it was just me and him. And he said, you're my daughter. And I was like, okay. He's like, no, I am not letting you go. I'm here, you're my daughter, and you belong to me. So I was like, okay. And I remember it was just the whole, and this has been like maybe a year, and all my life I've been battling it. But that was the only time in my life that there was no other voices. I'm not saying like audible voices. I'm talking about the devil when he says stuff and it plants stuff and attacks you and saying you're not a good mother, you're not a good friend, you're worthless, you know. So we get to the hospital, and at first they thought I was just somebody that was there for medicine. So that was fun. And they was discriminating already, and the ambulance driver was like taking up for me, and he's like, no, she's got some serious issues, you know. So they did all this blood work and everything, and God did a miracle in that moment in the ambulance. He did a miracle, and I know He did. And He did it as soon as I asked forgiveness when I took them pills, and it was, you know, I was thinking, well, I'm gone, you know, it's the end. But they did a blood work, and there was one pill in my system.
Wow. That's amazing.
One pill. So when He was telling me that I was His daughter and that I belonged to Him, He was showing that in that moment. And so I went into, voluntarily went into the hospital. And, you know, just they did watch for a couple of days. And then you get an atmosphere of people who have really mental issues. And then you're like, okay,
I'm okay.
I'm not near as bad as I thought I was. So it's just like changing the perspective. But He talked to me the whole time He was in there. And when I come home, I didn't go back to work. The doctor I worked for said, I think you just need some time to just relax and not be in a stressful environment. So in that time, the Lord started telling me some things. He was saying, all those times that you was hearing that you're a bad wife, you're a bad mother, the opposite is the truth. So the devil tries to knock us out of doing things that he knows that we're going to just like soar through. He wants us to, I mean, he died so that we have life and that we have freedom. And the devil tries to take away that freedom. And so my journey started that I would get up in the morning and I would listen to worship music for like 4 hours. And I would just lay in the presence of the Lord and I would just let Him speak to me. And then I also realized that during that time, I was allowing the negative to come in, but I wasn't putting truth in. So He was just showing me things that in the midst of the chaos you don't think of. But He started me on a path of healing. And that was in 2008. And that's my story. But I just want to tell you that we've all struggled with something. I mean, sometimes it's really, really hard. Sometimes it's maybe not as bad or whatever. But I'm here because I was Jesus' daughter. And you're a son and you're a daughter. And He cares for you. And He don't want you to be stuck in fear. He don't want you to feel worthless. But He wants to give you life because He died so that we could have life.
That you've been through things similar or maybe completely different, but you've never told anybody. Just telling that can be healing and can do things for you that you weren't even aware of at the time. I love that she said, I don't love that she went through that, but I love how she explained it. Because fear, we talked about this the last 2 times, but this is the basic of it. Fear is a spirit, so it's not an emotion. It's not like being happy and then sad and then being, mad the next moment. It's not like that. Those emotions come and go like this, especially if you're a woman. We can be on a roller coaster in like 5 minutes. We can span all of the emotions in the universe, and our husbands are like, what just happened? My head is spinning. Can you calm down? So those are emotions, right? But a spirit is not an emotion. It's on another plane. It's not comparable. And because it's a spirit, it's not from God. So 2 Timothy 1:7 says, God has not given us a spirit of fear. So there's only two options here. If God hasn't given it, there's one other source, and that is Satan. So this is a demonic spirit. When we talk about fear, if you need to picture it like a demon, so I don't know if anybody's ever seen one of those, or even if you believe in those. I've never seen one, don't want to ever see one. But this is a demonic spirit, and it comes with an intention. It comes on a mission, and this is what it comes to do, just what Leah said. It comes to torment, and it begins as soon as it can. So for most of us, it starts as a child. For most kids are scared of something, maybe scared of the dark, scared of the boogeyman. And it's so, the things that we do in ignorance, because we don't know. I don't mean ignorant in a mean way. I mean, we just simply don't know what we're doing sometimes with our kids. And, even I remember people telling me, like, don't go out there, the boogeyman. I'm like, the boogeyman? What the heck is that? And then at night, then you're afraid, and I'd sleep with blankets over my head at night, just leave a little hole to breathe, and just the things that we do. I'm with you. It's just it's fear, and it's not innocent. So it comes in as a child for most of us, and it intensifies. So like with Leah, she's at school, she's not able to focus on her work, she's not able just to have fun with her friends, she has this dread of she's going to go home and find her mother dead. So it's tormenting, but it continues to escalate. So like any spiritual thing in our lives, now emotions don't escalate and take over your life usually, but a spirit not dealt with will. And so it gets stronger and stronger, and the more we allow it just to rule over us, we don't know how to fight it, it gets stronger, and it takes over more and more of our thoughts, and it takes over more of our lives to where we feel powerless, where we feel we can't ever be free of it, and then it begins to lie to us, just like it did to her. This is its pattern. This is what it does to people. It says you're a terrible mother, you're a terrible wife, you're never going to do anything, you're never going to get free of the addiction, you'll be on Suboxone until you die. It says all this stuff. And when you believe the lie, that's when you're in trouble. And just a moment, just like Leah said, just a moment where she was maybe in a weakened state, already feeling maybe depressed that she's having to get on medicine, and that's when the enemy takes advantage, because it's a spirit. It knows what it's doing. It sees, okay, now she's not emotionally strong, she's upset, so now I'm going to talk to her about this. And just in a split second, you can do something, you can act on that fear that can be life-altering. And this is its intention for your life, to kill you, just like it was his intention for Leah. And Leah's not the only one. The fear may be small in your life right now, it may seem small when you compare it to her story, but it's the same spirit. So its end game is the exact same as that. Its end goal. And it's very patient. It's willing to just wait, and it's fine to lay kind of dormant or undiscovered for years. But there will be a time, if not dealt with, that it will manifest. Just like some people are predisposed to certain sicknesses because they're in their family and whatever. And it may be for 20 years or 30 years, it's undiscovered. But at some point it just manifests and they get a terrible diagnosis. It's the same way with fear. It can lay there, it can remain because we just worry about things, we dread things, we're anxious about simple, normal life things like paying our bills, like just making it. And eventually all of that escalates to a point of crisis and can be a life-altering situation. So it is a spirit, and it's rooted in death. So when it came into the world, as when Adam and Eve sinned, fear comes in, and boom, it's destructive and it wants to take over your life. So the last analogy before we move forward is that it's kind of like kudzu. Y'all have seen kudzu on the side of the road, or it may just start on a tree or something, and then you drive by a couple months later and it's like a whole hillside is covered in that stuff. It's aggressive. So fear is that way in our lives, and it usually comes in as a thought or just a suggestion. It can be attached to a memory. So if you were maybe sexually abused or physically or verbally abused, or maybe you were in a traumatic car accident, or you saw something traumatic, you saw somebody get abused or hurt or whatever as a child, fear was in that somehow, and it got in you. And it can play off of that memory, and you can be afraid and have post-traumatic stress disorder and things like that in your life. So it comes in as a thought, and this is what it says to you and to me. It says, I'll never leave. You're always going to be this way. And I had a dream about that too. So I already talked. I'm not going to repeat the whole thing I went through with fear, but where I was having that thought, breast cancer, over and over and over again. Well, I had another dream. I didn't show this part last time, but like a week or two later, I had another dream that was about the spirit of fear. And in this dream, I was standing in a big house, and there was like activity going on in the house, but suddenly there was this like ear-piercing, shrieking, terrible sound, and it drowned out everything else. And it was just this like, oh, you just wanted to, it felt like your ears were bleeding sound. And we're trying to figure out, but we can't hear each other. Where is this coming from? But nobody can hear anything but this screeching sound. And all of a sudden, this weird creature thing jumps on my back and puts me in a headlock and says, you can't break me off. And I knew that was the spirit of fear because I'd already been dealing with it. It just said, you can't break me off. And it had me tight. And in the dream, I just said, yes, I can. And I just went like this, and the thing broke off. And this man, when I did that, this man picked it up and took it out of the house, and it was gone. So fear, the spirit of fear will say that I'm bigger than you, it's too late, you are bound by me, I'm not leaving your life, your mother had this, so you're going to have this too. It's a lie. Like Leah's mom was saying, fear is not as big of a deal as it makes itself out to be, but it deceives us. It makes us feel like this is so big, this is so powerful, I can't get free. But that is a lie. It says that so that you and I won't fight back. And 1 Peter 5, verse 6, I'm just going to read it off my phone. But this is the picture of your enemy and of my enemy, the devil. And this is what it says. Give all your worries and cares to God. So anything that would make you anxious and upset and fearful, give that to God, for He cares for you. Stay alert. Watch out for your great enemy, the devil. He prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. Stand firm against him. Stand firm against him and be strong in your faith. Stand firm against him. So the spirit of fear, when it comes to us, and every person in this room is affected by it, whether it is just worrying about your finances, whether it's worrying about your kids, there is nothing good about worrying. It doesn't make you a better parent. It doesn't make you a better spouse. It doesn't make you a better person if you worry. That's a lie. Worry is fear, and it's not healthy. It's not emotionally healthy. It weakens you. It torments you. There's nothing good about it. And so when we're worrying, when we're overcome with anxious thoughts of tomorrow and the future and what's going to happen, that is fear. And just like a roaring lion, it's looking at you and it's looking at me and saying, how can I devour this person with this thought? How can I devour their mind so where they can't enjoy normal life, they can't see beyond this thing, they can't work on their marriage, they can't even work on being a better parent because they're so consumed with this thought of fear. The spirit of fear is like that lion. He's looking to overtake, to devour. He looks for people who are separated from others, like Leah said. The spirit of fear wants to isolate you. It wants to keep you from speaking up. It wants to keep you from seeking help. It will, people who are afraid of, or whatever, of even going to a church, going to a place where they could be spiritually helped and strengthened. They're afraid to go because they're afraid people are going to judge them. Well, they might. But you go to Walmart and people are probably judging you there. You go in the restaurant, people are judging you there. Like, people are just judgmental everywhere you go. So that doesn't stop us from going to work. It doesn't stop us from going into the store or going downtown to whatever event they have in Dauphin County. But fear of judgment, fear of people's opinions, that keeps us from doing things that will help us. And we have to actually fight back. Instead of just laying down and just letting it overtake us, even animals know better than that. Like the little gazelle that's getting stalked by the lion. And the lion starts to take over. Even the stupid animal runs and tries to fight back. And this is normal. This should be our instinct. But usually in the spiritual realm, we don't know what to do, so we just let it take over. But I'm going to talk just a few more minutes. If you believe, and if I believe, that I am eternally bound, or at least until I'm on this earth, to the spirit of fear, like I can't help it. I can't help that I'm afraid. I can't help that I'm overcome with anxiety. I can't help it. I can't help it. If you believe that, and if I believe that, we are powerless. That is what the spirit of fear wants you to believe and wants me to believe. Just like that thing in my dream, it had me in the head and said, you can't break me off. But in the dream I said, yes I can, and I fought against it. It's only powerful against people who don't fight. But most people don't fight because they don't know how. And so this is for you and me. If we will listen to this and actually put it into practice, this is how we fight the spirit of fear. We open our mouth, we speak the opposite. Like Leah said, whenever that voice is saying something to you, whatever that, maybe you don't hear a voice, but it's just usually a thought, like breast cancer, breast cancer, breast cancer, over and over. Your mom's going to die, you're going to come home, your kids are going to be dead, they're going to, be strung out on drugs. This thought that just keeps, you're never going to be reunited with your kids, you're always going to be the way you are. Whatever that thought is, one way you fight is by just saying the opposite. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to get a Bible and get a preacher and say, what do I say? No, you just say the opposite of whatever that lie is, because it is a lie. And there may be a little bit of truth mixed in. Maybe you're not the best person yet, or you're not the strongest Christian, or you're not the best parent yet. But it's a lie that you'll never be able to change. It's a lie that you'll never be able to get free. If you believe the lie, you'll be powerless, and you will never change. If you fight back, that is your power. Because the Bible says, look, there's this lion, he's coming for whoever he can take out, but there are some people that he can't take out. Who are the people he can't take out? The people that fight back. And you don't have to be the strongest fighter. You and I just have to be consistent. This is like the biggest thing.